Look at your big toe right now. Your nail may be starting to dig into your skin, but you don't notice it yet. Most people only see a podiatrist when they're experiencing severe pain, inflammation, or even pus, but the problem actually starts much earlier. Your body almost always gives you signals that your nail is about to dig into your skin. There are 5 such signals, and if you notice them in time, you can stop the problem very quickly. And one of these signals is ignored by most people, even though it's the one that most often ends in serious inflammation. An ingrown toenail is one of the most common foot problems. And the most interesting thing is that in many cases, people create this problem themselves. They cut their nails incorrectly, cut corners, wear tight shoes, or simply ignore the first signs. When the problem is just starting, it can be solved very easily. But if you ignore the body's signals, the nail gradually begins to dig into the skin, causing inflammation, pain, and sometimes even requiring surgery. That is why it is important to know the first signals that show that the nail is starting to dig in. The first sign is a change in the shape of the nail. A healthy nail grows straight forward and has a relatively even shape, but when the nail starts to curve down a little on the sides, this can be the first warning sign. Many people at this point think that they just need to cut the corners deeper to straighten the nail, but this is where the problem begins. When the corners of the nail are cut too deep, the nail starts to grow into the skin instead of forward. At first, it is almost imperceptible, but after a while it can lead to pain and inflammation. The second sign is slight tenderness when pressed. At this stage, there is no severe pain, which is why people often ignore it. But if you press on the side of the nail or if the shoe presses slightly on the toe, you may feel a slight discomfort or unpleasant feeling. Many people think that this is just rubbing against the shoe or that it is temporary. In fact, at this point, the nail may already be pressing against the skin. This is an early sign that the direction of nail growth is changing. The third signal is redness near the nail. This is a more noticeable sign that something is wrong. The skin near the nail begins to turn slightly red. Sometimes a small swelling appears. This means that the body is already reacting to the constant pressure of the nail on the skin. At this stage, many people make a serious mistake. They try to cut the corners of the nail themselves with scissors or nippers. It seems that if you remove a piece of the nail, the problem will disappear, but often after such actions, a small sharp edge of the nail remains in the skin, which over time begins to cut even deeper. The fourth signal is a change in the skin near the nail. Many people are not even aware of the sign. When a nail presses on the same area of skin for a long time, the body begins to defend itself. The skin in this place may become denser, rougher, or a little harder. People often think that this is just roughening of the skin or a bumps, but in fact, this may be a reaction to the constant pressure of the nail. This is a signal that the nail is already starting to interact with the skin incorrectly. The fifth signal is the appearance of a small wound near the nail. This is a serious signal that cannot be ignored. At first, it may look like a small crack or a small wound near the edge of the nail, but in reality, this means that the nail is already traumatizing the skin. Bacteria can get through such a wound, and then inflammation begins. It is at this stage that severe pain, swelling, and sometimes even pus often appear, and it is then that most people turn to a specialist, although the problem began much earlier. There is another common mistake that is worth mentioning. When people feel pain, they often try to cut out the piece of nail that is digging into the skin themselves. And sometimes it seems that the problem has disappeared, but in fact, this is often only temporary relief. After such an intervention, the nail can start to grow even deeper into the skin. And after a while, the problem returns again, but in a more complicated form. If you notice at least one of these signals, you should not ignore it. At an early stage, the problem can be solved much easier and faster. But if you wait too long, the nail can grow so much that the treatment will be much more difficult. Write in the comments whether you have ever encountered The problem of an ingrown nail. And if this information was useful to you, subscribe to the channel, because here I regularly talk about foot care mistakes that many people make.